Well, we are just moments away from meeting our athletes competing in the 3-meter synchro finals. Stand by for the introduction of our amazing athletes. Diving fans, please welcome the athletes participating in the mixed 3-meter synchro championship final. Representing Ukraine, Kirilo Azarov and Kirol Bokulu. Representing Malaysia, representing Mexico, Jesus Espinoza Garcia, Aldo Hernandez Suarez. Representing Japan, representing Brazil, Rafael Forgacha, Rafael Silva Max de Almeida. Representing Germany, representing Cuba, Frank Abel Rosales Triana, Yuri Pratsguerra. Representing Great Britain, representing Korea, Jiyok Park Seok Young Kim. Representing Turkey, representing Switzerland, Damien Odell Thomas Michelod. Representing Canada, representing Chinese Taipei, Zilin Li Yuqian Tu. Representing Croatia, representing United States of America, Max Fowler Nick Harris. Representing Colombia, representing Italy, Stefano Bellotti, Matteo Santoro. Representing Australia, Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, your athletes competing in the 3-meter mixed synchro championship.
Hello and welcome back to our final event of day 6 at the FINA Junior World Championships here in Montreal. Joining me for the boys 3-meter synchro final event is Igor Kopecki.
Hi, Courtney. Thanks for having me back once again. Second event of the day for me. Final event of the day for the competition.
In this event, we have 18 teams, which means 18 different countries in this event. The first 2 dives, the compulsory dives, all with the DD of 2.0, and then the last 3 dives moving into those difficult optional dives. And that's where we'll start to see the competition spread out.
Nice to have the compulsory dives at the beginning. We haven't been able to see them yet since all the finals have been pure optionals so far. So here's a chance to see the elegance and beauty of the movements. And for extra fun, you get to see 2 divers performing at the same time, as synchronized as possible. They're trying to move together. Most of it really is in the timing of departure. It's hard once you're in the air to make any real adjustments in terms of timing. And the closer their styles are, the better a match. The more synchronized, the higher the synchronized scores. The judges, we have judges assigned to the execution, so the diver closer to the pool side has the first 3 judges assigned to them. The other diver, diver B, has 3 judges assigned to their execution. And then the last 5 judges are going to evaluate how synchronized the divers were. Synchronization being the timing, exact timing together, how fluid they are together. And then also the distance. So if one is further out from the board or closer to the board than the other, and how vertical they are at the end. Are they both vertical together, both under-rotated, both over-rotated? Although they're also going to take into account an overall impression in the synchronization, because even though you can land flat synchronized, that's not worth a 10 in synchronization.
Ultimately, there is a lot to think about while judging this event. And yes, we kind of brought up the both landing flat synchronicity portion of it, but you are correct. If it's not good, they are not going to get high scores. After our third group of divers, we've seen a back dive, a reverse dive, and now an inward 1.5. So far, we've ranged from 34.2 points all the way up to 48 on these first few dives, all with the same DD, so very evident who is doing them well in synchronization and individually.
Yeah, and we're going to have a taste of which divers are stronger. We've seen some of them already in the boys A 3-meter or the boys B 3-meter finals. Both of these Japanese divers made the final, so this should be, theoretically, a very strong team. When you have two divers in the finals, kind of signals how strong they can dive in their individual performances. You match up two strong individual divers, likely you're going to have a great synchro team.
An interesting start. One athlete not having his arms all the way up. This is obviously them compromising on the takeoff, considering they must both do them differently. Overall, a nice dive from Team Japan.
Their kickouts look exceedingly synchronized, one landing in the water just slightly after the other. .42 points on their dive, good scores. Not as amazing as the Ukrainians, who have taken the lead. They were at 48, setting the standard in the first round. Anything close to 50 is a good score on these first two rounds. A 50-point dive is a great compulsory or a 2.0 dive. And now Brazil. Rafael Silva, both divers named Rafael. One of them won a bronze medal in the 3-meter boys A. Both divers very strong, doing high degree of difficulty in their optionals. Inward 1.5, jumping high. Great synchronization. 46.8 points the total for them. Just slightly behind Ukraine at the moment. We're going to see some high jumping dives here. Good synchronization. The first two rounds generally should be their most consistent, their best dives. Things get exciting after that. The field will separate a little bit more as they gamble on their risks reward. Team Germany. Jonathan with the silver medal in the boys A 3-meter event. Synchronization, excellent.
Just missing one entry there, tiny bit on the bottom. Nothing too crazy.
So you can see on your screen, the screen is divided into execution scores. The first three going to the close diver, Otto, and the second three, the higher 7.5s and 7s, go to Jonathan Schauer. And the synchronized scores are the final 5 scores you see on the screen. From Cuba, neither one able to make the final, despite having high expectations. Looking for redemption in the synchronized event. Starting with the back dive, pike. Again, good synchronization. They're leaving the board together. Good dives. Here we have an example. One diver diving slightly further out than the other and just a little bit over-rotated. their coach, former synchro partner of Jose Guerra. A lot of great results behind them. Finalists, near medalists at world level on the 10-meter synchronized event. Knows a thing or two about timing and some great diving.
Team Great Britain with the same dive.
Leon Baker showing some impressive things in the boys' A 3-meter final. One of the top 12 to make it through.
Very, very nice synchronization for Team Great Britain on their first dive. Right from the get-go, jumping off at the same time, piking at the same time, and entering the water at the same time. We're going to see some great scores on the synchronicity on their first dive.
And to Korea, South Korea's Park and Kim, same dive. A lot of back dives and inward dives in this first round. Slightly different styles, one a little more archy than the other. Won't get scored as well as the Great Britain divers. Still 40 points. One of the few times I've seen Turkey at an international event, so they're a bit newer to the world junior scene. They brought a full team. And they're going to turn backwards, but rotate the opposite direction, going inwards for an inward dive pike.
What we saw from one of the athletes there, we call getting stuck in your pike. And it happens. You go in your pike, you go to get out, and your body just kind of says, no, thank you.
You just don't have quite enough rotation. Your legs kind of hang in there. He was patient enough and waited and waited and waited. Still got in vertically, but definitely affecting the synchronization scores. That's the first 10 teams of an 18-team event as we get to Switzerland. They'll be doing the same dive. And see how the divers are just balanced on their toes at the end of the board. Got to have good balance to be in this sport.
All in the pinky toe. Again, we're just seeing that stuckness in the inward dive itself, struggling to pop out. That's what the judges really like to see. Quick into the pike and popping out using the hinge of your hips. Still receiving some nice scores overall.
39-60. So even with the slight difference in their opening timing, they still get close to that 40-point mark. Pretty much in the middle of the field for them. And Canadians both training out of Toronto, the Toronto Diving Academy. Emmett Reeser, Noah Bernard, who was spectacular yesterday in the boys' A 3-meter final, teaming up for a forward 1.5 pike.
That was stunning.
Their timing is great.
Working very hard to make sure they take off at the same time.
Everything perfectly right together. Emmett maybe just a touch further out. Good start for them, 45, closer to the top than the bottom of the field. Emmett originally out of Kitchener-Waterloo. Now training in Toronto as we move to Chinese Taipei. And their first dive is an inward dive pike. Solid start. One of the better inward dives so far. They were not stuck, in contrast to what the other ones that we saw earlier. It looks like a little more fluid when they're coming off the board and opening up at the same time into their straight positions before they grab their hands for that entry. Two different sizes of divers.
Can change how high one may jump compared to the other.
Sometimes needing to adjust. If you are a very high jumper, you need to adjust to your partner.
A bit easier to adjust the hurdles and takeoffs on these first two compulsory dives. A lot less to think about.
And the Croatian pair. They'll be doing the same dive. And that's the best inward dive we've seen so far.
It sure is.
Dynamic in the takeoff, great balance, dynamic opening, and really vertical with great entries. And they're rewarded, moving slightly ahead of the Canadians at 46. 46.20 total on the dive. Execution scores up to 8, and synchronization up to 8.5. Now the American pair, Fowler and Harris. Fowler also in the 1 meter final, the 3 meter final, and now the 3 meter synchro back dive.
Very, very nice.
Really nice start. That's probably the closest back dive we've seen so far. All the other teams seem to move away from the board a little bit. Max maybe even a little too close, but on a back dive, you're not in that much danger of hitting the board. A little closer and he could touch his toes. Good execution. .43.20.
Two more teams to go in this round. 48 points is the highest score for the first set of compulsory so far from Team Ukraine. Colombia, also with the back dive pike. The inward dive pike.
Very cleanly done. Yeah, inward dive pike. Tamayo and Juan Esteban, nicknamed Juanes.
It's a good nickname. That was a really, really beautiful dive.
Yeah, very good. Juanes with a very nice entry on that dive. Both. There's the Juanes singer, Colombian singer Juanes, and Juan Esteban simplified his name. Known by that nickname since he was a junior, known for his entries all throughout his junior career in Colombia and South America. And Italy, having the 3 meter and 1 meter A champion, Matteo Santoro, along with Bellotti on the far board. And Italy continues to impress at these Junior World Championships. They have contenders in many events.
Extraordinarily strong athletes here in Montreal from Team Italy. And on that first dive, surpassing Ukraine with now a score of 49.8, setting the tone.
Yeah, Santoro, the gold medalist in that event, but his teammate looking equally as powerful and high and strong. Excellent start for the Italians. With one team to go. Italy sitting in first with 49, the Ukrainians in second at 48, and the Colombians at 47. Australia with their chance. Well, not lacking in height, maybe just a little bit of that polished, clean precision on the entry. Not as clean, but they're really working the board, getting way up there. Very good synchronization. You can see little splashes of water as they hit the water, missing a little bit of that wonderful sound that we just saw from the Italians. And so they still get 44. A solid start for Team Australia. The standings after the first round, where everyone plays with the same degree of difficulty, a 2.0. We have one more similar round to go before we start the optional dives, where degree of difficulty is unlimited. Your choice as to how hard you make your dive.
And throughout all 5 rounds, we are going to see a lot of the same dives. Helpful for us and the judges for comparison.
Here are the two Ukrainians starting out the competition. They'll lead the event. Bolyuk, winning the platform just recently, also won the 3-meter. Both of these boys are training in Kiev. And they've had to stop training at times when there is a drone threat and drone strike. Imagine that.
It's a very scary time for them, and they show up here extremely powerful. Podiums, multiple athletes per final, so resilient.
Kirill Bolyuk really class of the field in that platform event and in the 3-meter event as well. And he's only in Group B, so he's younger than a lot of the other divers in this event. There's the Ukrainian coach. Diving takes a lot of bravery, but especially when you're under attack. So it's great to see them have some success here.
And a very long day for Kirill, who also just competed in the Boys B platform event today.
A lot of resilience from the Ukrainian team. The Malaysians are doing a dive that normally would be a 2.4 degree of difficulty if they chose to do it in their optional dives. But because we're still in the compulsories, it's reduced, even though it is a slightly more complicated dive. 1.5 twisting, back 1.5 somersaults. Great execution. You can see why they chose to do it here. Sometimes you do a slightly harder dive. A lot of teams have chosen very simple dives, a back dive, an inward dive, or a forward 1.5. By choosing a slightly harder dive, it shows they have confidence in that skill. And it looks a little more interesting, sometimes a little more dramatic and dynamic for the judges as well. 42 points for Malaysia. Their total is 81. And the Mexican pair doing the back dive.
A very nice dive.
Precision on that entry, both of them straight in. Excellent entry. You see on the close board to us on our screen on the right there, he doesn't actually touch his toes. His hands are just sort of up in the air there.
And Jesus, who has also competed in the Boys B prelim and final platform today, now finishing off the day with the men's synchro event.
A big day for some of these divers that are doing multiple events.
A very, very big and long day. It's extremely impressive to see them still with energy, still upbeat, still strong. Team Japan, reverse dive pike.
13th after the first round.
Beautiful entries.
Nice entries, really dynamic opening. You can see them really touching and immediately opening up. after they've touched their toes.
Focusing on the synchronicity of their dives. Like Igor said, that nice tight push out. Nobody's slowing down. Nobody's lacking. Great scores. Very, very impressive.
48 points, nearly the highest total in the compulsories. Big smiles from the Japanese duo as we move to Brazil and their second dive. Same dive by Brazil. They also jump high, but their openings are generally a little bit smoother than the dynamic opening of the Japanese pair. But not this time.
And we've seen 2 hurdles in a row where you can tell one athlete has to slow down a little bit in order to match the actual takeoff on the end. Landing in the water at the same time, something the judges really can appreciate.
Yeah, really well done. 45 points, not quite as synchronized or strong as the Japanese team, but very close.
And we're still only on the compulsories.
And early days in this competition, really,
Yes.
as the German pair will go the other direction for a forward 1.5. Not bad.
I mean, are we feeling critical?
That's our, I think we're going to point out the good and the bad, not the ugly.
It was fine. Individually nice dives, just not at the same time.
Yeah, and this is just a little bit off. Still decent synchronized scores. It could have been a little bit tighter. 42. We've seen the standard is 48, so just a little bit off the top mark. And now we're going to go back to the reverse dive, walking forwards down the board, rotating towards the board. Pike position, bending at the waist. We'll look for both of them to touch their toes, not their shins, and not just open air to the side.
Very, very similar hurdles, which could be based on the fact that they may train together at the same facility with the same coaches, learning the same techniques, just slightly off the board at different times, and yet entering the water at the same time with that smooth, clean entry.
Yeah, great entries from them. You can see synchronization, the weak part of that dive for them. Low of 6.5 in the synchronization. It's a little different timing in the opening of their pike. And only 42 on that dive. Great Britain was in 5th coming into this round. On an inward 1.5 pike, have a chance to do another solid dive and move a little bit up in the ranking. To be really poised to jump ahead in the optional dives.
Very nice work. And we've seen a ton of inward dives. And now we're starting to see inward 1.5s. A little more difficult considering you're adding that extra flip, and yet Team Great Britain here making it look easy.
Nicely timed. And I think it looks a little more elegant when you add the rotation. I mean, there is a beauty in a back dive or reverse dive, but just a simple front dive or inward dive, add that extra rotation, it makes it a little more challenging to synchronize the opening or to synchronize the getting into it. Yet it's worth it, I think, when the judges see the flow of the entire dive together and synchronized. 46.80 for Baker and Thomas. And South Korea. Interesting, they land exactly together, they take off together, but one touched almost parallel to the water. I think we'll see in the slow motion, it was almost a bizarre piking opening from the one on that board.
Yes, reaching past his legs. This can sometimes get you into trouble landing short. It's nice to just touch your toes and do that nice hip hinge extension and push out of it.
Still 7s in the synchronization, so it didn't seem to affect the appreciation from the judges' point of view as much. And to Turkey. Back dive, pike. They started with inward, moving to back on the second round. This means they won't be doing an inward or back spinning dive in their optional dives.
It was nice.
Yeah, good synchronization. Could be a little more dynamic in using the board in comparison to some of the other divers. They're not as high. Their timing is good. And just scored a little bit lower than you see the other teams. 36.60 on this dive.
Now we have Switzerland with the back dive pike. A nice dive from Switzerland. Sometimes when dives are really nice, you kind of hear an oh from the crowd, and we heard it on this dive.
Yeah, just spectacular entry. Only 1 6.5 from all the scores, everything else 7 or better. 43 points and lots of smiles.
We love smiles.
And we've got the Canadians on the board. Sporting the Canadian red with the white flag, white maple leaf.
Looking good.
Plenty of support in the stands. Some of the divers that have finished early at this competition or finished their competing times have now made signs as we pan to the crowd after their dive. We get a chance to see some of the creativity from the remaining Canadian divers. Inward dive pike.
2 for 2 from Team Canada.
Yeah, even better than their first dive, I thought. Their distance this time was dead on. Both great entries, timing right together.
Receiving some really nice scores from the judges.
Yeah, Noah just continuing to get in as clean as I have ever seen him on his entries. Emmett matching him with the great entry as well. 48.6 points on that for Team Canada, and they move to first for the time being. 94.20, their total. And Taipei up for the reverse dive pike. Well, that'll probably be the lowest scoring dive so far. A little bit off in their synchronization, not even catching the board, and one diver making a big mistake. The one closest to us, over-rotating quite a bit. You can see just not quite the confidence that some of the other teams have. Little break in form, bent knees in the air. Still smiles. They're happy to be here.
It's such a great experience.
Yes, the coach telling him the obvious. You were over. He knew that already. And to Team Croatia. Croatia hosting the Ukrainian women's team. Currently, they are training in Croatia with the Croatian team. There's a Ukrainian coach there as well. I think that just benefits both teams. Great to see that kind of collaboration. And now the men.
Beautiful diving.
They're looking great. They were in 5th after the first round. The solid start on their first dive, 46 points. This is just as good or better. Can't ask for much more in a back dive. Really high, great toe touch. Beautiful entry.
Really great diving from Team Croatia, who we don't really see that often at our international events here hosted in Canada. It's great to see them here performing so well.
With quality. It is excellent. We do see sometimes on Instagram a certain Croatian pool that has an infinity, beautiful look to it that I've had divers ask me if we can do a training camp there. Maybe this is time to approach them and see what that availability looks like. US, Fowler and Harris. Inward, 1.5 in open pike. So we've seen usually the divers will grab their legs in a closed pike position. They choose to do it without the squeeze of their arms,
Not
just holding their
easy.
body open. This is more challenging to do, but very good execution.
If you want to know how difficult it is, get on your floor, sit on your bum, and put your toes in the air and your arms out to the side. That is what it is like to do an inward 1.5 open pike.
And that's just the pike part.
That's just the pike part.
Tamayo and Escobar. Sorry, Estevez.
Entering the water at the same time.
And another twist dive. The second twist that we've seen in the compulsories here. Another strong, synchronized dive from the Colombian team. There is another Escobar on the Colombian team, but he's not here right now.
Next up is another inward 1.5 pike, which we have enjoyed watching in these 2 compulsory rounds. Curious to see if Team Italy will do the open pike or the closed pike position.
I'm betting on closed.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, again, beautiful dive, nice high jump. Very closed pike, fully
Very closed.
squeezing their pike positions, and
And
you can just see them dart into the water.
So
one.
beautiful, even watching again in slow motion. They're very, very technical divers, very strong, very composed. All important aspects of the sport.
Looking very comfortable after their first 2 dives. Optional dives about to start here. And Italy just moves ahead of Croatia. They're at 97. Croatia in second, knocking Canada down to third. And Australia with their second compulsory. Inward 1.5 again. They also choose to do it in the closed pike position. Good synchronization. Not quite as high as the Italian pair, but very synchronized, certainly.
I think we'll see some better diving from them in the following 3 rounds.
Yeah, Luis just rolling over a little bit, taking away from the perfect execution scores. 41-40 for the Australian pair as we finish the compulsory dives. 3 rounds left to go. Now it gets more exciting, more action, more spinning, more rotations, more chances for dramatic finishes.
The dramatic ones are very fun.
There will be some great drama in some great dives we'll see, and I'm sure we'll see some that aren't quite as perfect. Not that we hope for that,
But just
But
based on the
inevitably,
statistics.
with the risk, 18 teams in this, it's a slightly longer event. Often in synchronized events, there are not as many teams. That allows you to kind of have a better rhythm. You're not waiting as long in between dives, which is much harder to manage your nerves and manage the freshness, your muscles, the feeling of the board, feeling of going. From the Ukraine, Azarov and Bolyuk, both divers in the B age group, so they're even on the younger side, which means they can only be 14 or 15. The divers in A are 16 to 18.
And starting with a big dive, the inward 2.5 pike.
Inward 2.5 pike. So we were at 2.0 for the compulsory dives. Now we're at 3.0, adding an entire rotation to the inward. Now it's also more challenging as you see the different rates of rotation, just slightly off in their rotational speed compared to one to the other. Good execution with the dives and good synchro scores. $64.80. They'll take the lead, obviously, with the first dive. And a very strong start for the Ukrainian pair. I think we're looking for dives up into the 70s will be outstanding dives. And some of them will be doing higher degree of difficulty, making it a little bit easier to get up into the 70s. It takes quite a spectacular dive at a 3.0 to get in there. It's possible. I expect we'll see a few. Malaysia.
A very nice first optional dive.
Support from the crowd. Nice back 2.5. It's in tuck, so it's 2.8. But nice to see the variety here. Beautiful tuck positions, excellent kickouts, right together, slightly going over at the end. 56 points on a 2.8. Great start for the Malaysian pair.
Next up, we have Team Mexico. Also a DD of 2.8, but a forward 3.5 somersault tuck position.
Well done. Not the highest jumpers, but certainly spinning very fast. One advantage or disadvantage that this pair has is when you're so slight, they don't have enough weight to add to the press of the board, so the board doesn't recoil as much for them. Some of the larger divers having that physical advantage to bend the board a little more, get a little more spring out of it. Nevertheless, their synchronization very good, and they're rewarded with 52 total points.
Now we're going to see another inward 2.5 pike.
Same dive as Ukraine just did. Senri doing an inward 3.5 in the individual event. You see them starting in slightly different arm swing positions.
Really impressive work.
He should have done that in the boys A. Senri doing a spectacular inward 2.5 pike. His inward 3.5 getting only 30-some points. Nice camera angle to just see really what their feet are doing and how much energy is going into the feet as they're pressing the board right in that takeoff. Aside from the different start, one had his arms at his sides, the other straight out. Then they got it together and had a 63-point dive. That moves them ahead of the Ukraine in the first round of optional dives.
Now we will see Brazil do the forward 3.5, but in the pike position. We've said it before, it's a little bit easier to see when they're out of synchronicity in the pike position. Not spinning at the same speed, but entering the water at the same time.
Yeah, really good in the hurdles. You can see they have a great chance to get it together. But Fogazza on the far board, spinning faster than his partner. And actually, Fogazza does a very nice 4.5 as well in the individual event. And just over-rotate slightly. And with a 3.1 degree of difficulty, a slight miss allows them to get ahead of the Japanese team. So Brazil sitting in first at this early stage of the third round of dives. Auto and shower. Starting with inward 2.5 pike, 3.0 for this one.
All right.
Really nice pike positions. Very good dives, very good synchronization. Maybe not the cleanest disappearing act into the water.
Just need to tidy it up the tiniest bit.
Want to get a little bit higher scores. Finish a little higher. Still, 66 points.
Getting closer to that 70 mark.
And it does bring them ahead of the Brazilian team. We've got a very close race here with the divers doing great dives at the beginning. 151 to 153, separating the first 4 spots right now. And Cuba gets ready for the same dive. Great pike positions as well. Just an unfortunate over-rotation on the far board.
This can be a difficult dive to control, especially when you come out. You want that rip entry. You don't feel like you're high enough above the water to stretch for the water.
Yeah, you can see the execution scores 3.5, 5, 3.5. That was the over-rotation. Cost them overall in the point total.
We will see Team Great Britain with the same dive, the inward 2.5 pike. Great cheering squad up in the stands.
Yeah, they're battling the Germans and Canadians for the loudest team up there. Australia also.
It's very, very helpful before and after you go.
And just a great feeling to come up and hear your team supporting you.
Beautiful.
From our angle, that looked incredibly synchronized. Looked like Leon was maybe a little bit higher.
A little bit higher, but also a little bit taller. So he just reached for the water, entering at the same time. It's that extra inch or two.
Another 66-point dive in this event. Quality. Remaining in striking distance. Now they're setting up to be in good shape to strike for a medal coming into the last couple rounds. And we just have each team just slightly outdoing the previous one.
Team
And
Korea.
the Koreans come up with a big dive. So at 3.1, forward 3.5, well executed, slightly different hurdle styles at the beginning, matching up at the end. And then great spin. Really great finish for these guys. Not quite the 66 that we saw from some of the other teams, but still 64 points is a great total so far in this event. And that keeps them hanging up with the top teams. Turkey, a slightly lower degree of difficulty. Most of the teams doing forward 3.5, so they're going to do a forward 2.5. Very well done. Nice to see. They're not trying to do something they can't do. They're staying within their limits and executing well. Look at this, right together. Great timing, nice pikes, and very solid entries.
Very nice way to make their international synchro debut.
Yes, and coming to this kind of an event where they get to see the other divers can only be motivating and helping their own diving. So we'll expect to see them come back to the next events much stronger with this experience and motivation. 43 points, largely for the lower degree of difficulty and just slightly not quite the same execution as we've seen from some of the others. So they're in the 6.5 range when they do a great dive.
Switzerland, an inward 2.5 somersault in the tuck position this time.
It's a little lower difficulty again than some of the other teams. But boy, that's nice execution.
Absolutely. So much better to do a lower DD dive like that than try to push yourself, do higher DD, and not execute it so beautifully.
Yeah, and I'm just, as you watch this, just look at that tuck position on the far board. Just so precise in, grabbing lower down on his shins, toes pointed. Quality movements are just great to watch.
Team Canada.
Team Canada, first optional dive. Forward 2.5 with the full twist. Sometimes in getting a partner, you want to, it's not the easiest thing necessarily to find a partner because people do compete different individual dives. So you got to see where you match up in the best. Both these divers having a strong 2.5 with a full twist.
Wow.
3 for 3. The signs, the support is there, and they're diving to match it.
This is very, very impressive work from Noah and Emmett. Just working so hard, so consistently. This is very, very exciting for Team Canada.
Yeah, great timing. Their synchronization was very good. Emmett maybe a little leaning forward on the board as he landed, but saved it. And then just a touch short for Noah, under-rotated, but very good control. Clean entry. They're sitting right up there with the others. We've got a tight race. 6th place currently, 151. First is under 160, and we still have a few teams to go. Another team choosing a 2.4 difficulty at. And again, good execution. Staying within the range, not trying to do a 3.5 that could be disastrous, but doing a steady forward 2.5. Lower degree of difficulty. They're not going to challenge for high spots. A bit more experience, trying to get a good performance out of themselves. The close diver just over-rotating a little bit, but their synchronization and their timing on the board, very good.
Next up, Croatia with a more difficult dive, inward 2.5 somersault pike position.
We've seen a couple good inward 2.5 pikes so far. They've been contending with their compulsory dives up at the top end of the group.
Wow.
And they keep going. Excellent inward 2.5 pike by both and synchronized.
We're going to see some really nice scores from the judges here.
Great pike positions, vertical lines at the end. You want to get maybe a little higher score. They could finish a little bit higher. Nevertheless, very solid.
Very consistent.
69 top dive of the preliminary so far.
Max and Nick from Team USA. Forward 3.5 pike position. Really critical that they are rotating at the same time. Otherwise, it's very clear if they're not.
Pretty good rotation right together. They both went a little bit out too far, so that might help their synchronization. Great pike positions. And then when you're out a little bit, a little harder to control the verticalness on the entry. High of an 8 on the execution, low of 6 on execution. 64 points, solid dive. Probably hoping for just a little more. And they're in the mix at 151. Just 3 teams left in this round. Colombia up next. On their back, 2.5. So instead of inward like some of the other teams and forwards, they're electing a backwards dive. 2.5. In pike. Looked like everything was going just right.
Maybe a little overconfident on the dive, just coming out too early, not being patient with the dive.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They were right up there going into that. Tamayo just opening a little early, getting his arms in the wrong spot to keep the water down. He lets the splash escape.
Hopefully they keep it lighthearted. It sucks when you're the one to mess up a little bit, especially in that synchro event.
Feeling guilty when you had a chance to put your team in good shape. Now Italy. We saw the Americans with their forward 3.5.
I have to say, these two are probably some of the top performers at this event here.
Yeah, just really high. Look at this. Really vertical in the takeoff. Straight in. A little bit splashy on the far board.
These two came here to compete.
Outstanding dives, really. This is high-level diving. With ease, plenty of 8s all around. Slightly lower in execution on Santoros, on Bellotti. And they're up commandingly in first. Pretty much leading the entire competition. And the final divers of the third round, the Australians, Wilson and Fazzolari, also a forward 3.5.
Very, very strong athletes. We're seeing these two do the big dives. They're just not very beautiful to watch. Not very tight in their pikes. Their come-outs are just a little, I hate to say the word, sloppy. And we're seeing some really, really nice dives in this event.
Yeah, we're putting them up against some of the other ones. And I was just noticing it is still impressive to see the timing, the synchronization. They're going together. They're spinning fast. These guys are working the board very well. But then when you see that precision and verticalness and toe point and leg extension, we're just comparing that just a little bit. So they're a little bit off the mark on that, which is why their scores end up being 61 instead of a 69 like we saw on the Italian team.
The scores between first and sixth, just over 10 points. Really, really not too far apart. Still two dives left to go.
We're through 3 rounds. 2 dives to go. Starting off round 4. Ukrainian team, Azarov and Bolyuk. Forward 2.5, 1 full twist. Their animated coach looking on.
A good effort.
Excellent dive, trouble in the hurdle. It looked like Bolyuk was well back from the edge of the board, but managed to hold it together, get into the water at the same time. They were in 8th place. Again, they are both in the B age group, so they're younger than the other teams, some of the top teams. So they've got a lot left to be there. Take it easy, still one more dive. Sign language from the Ukrainian coach. Also looking young, the Malaysian team. lower degree of difficulty. Let's watch another precision from these two. They did a nice back 2.5 in the first round of optional dives. Standing backwards, now they'll spin towards the board.
They're really beautiful.
Beautiful finishes, beautiful positions. Need to work a little more on using the diving board, not just zipping off right away. It does work if they both zip off and hop off before the board can recoil all the way, so they look synchronized. But we've just been watching teams get a lot more height out of the board and finish the smooth takeoff. Still very good synchronization scores. 53 points on a 2.8. 2.7 for the inward. Back 2.5 is 2.8. And now we'll compare the Mexican team with them on the very same dive. Divers of the same stature. See them wiping their bathing suit a little bit sometimes. You want to kind of get the moisture in your hands just right. You don't want to slip on your legs or feel like you're going to slip on your legs. Too wet, feels slippery. Too dry, feels slippery. There's a bit of moisture left in the bathing suit. So sometimes you see them going for that. Solid dives. I would say even better than Malaysia. They jumped higher, were just as vertical, had just as good entries as the Malaysian team. Malaysian team maybe superior in toe point in their tuck position. Excitement from their coach. On to the Japanese pair, both of these making the finals. In the 3-meter event, forward 3.5 pike. We saw a good one from Italy. Very good individual 3.5 pikes.
That I can agree with.
You can see them already starting with a different hurdle style. And one just jumps a little bit higher, Senri a little bit higher. So they hit the water at different times. They spin at different rates. You just can't bring up top scores when the synchronization is not tight. 58-59 for Japan. Going to take a little evaluation look on the iPad. There we get to see one more time what they're looking at as well. Before we move on to the Brazilian pair, Fogazza and Silva. Now we get into the degree of difficulty. Forward 2.5, 2 twists. This is the highest we've seen yet at 3.4. This is a chance, a real chance to make a move. They jump high, spin fast. They have no trouble making the dive. The issue is control.
No issues here.
Easily made the dive on a very challenging dive at that. You have to get quite a bit of rotation as well as do your twist fast enough that you make it. See on the far board, Fogazza just over-rotating a little bit too much. That's been his problem here this week. Looking just spectacular in training. Making the finals at the World Championships at the senior level, so he's certainly good enough to be here. Slight over-rotation on his individual effort. Good scores on the synchro, 67 points. Very high total. Rewarded for their difficulty as the Germans get ready for their forward 3.5 pike.
Excellent work from Team Germany on this difficult dive.
Yeah, very good dives. These are very good 3.5s, very good pike positions, very synchronized, solid vertical entry. If they're going to get higher scores, like up higher into the 8s and bigger, just need just a little more precision on that entry, disappearing with even a cleaner sound. There is a sound element to the entry when you disappear with zero splash.
It's a sound everybody loves to hear. Quite often giving you some shivers.
Yes, indeed. The higher you go, especially. Still 67 points. Very solid dive. They move ahead of Brazil as we watch the Cubans on the very same dive, forward 3.5 in pike.
All right.
Best we've seen from Cuba all day. Beautiful forward 3.5. Even if they didn't catch the board perfectly, you heard a little bit of noise from the board. Very fast spinning, tight pike positions. Quite vertical and a good entry. The smaller you are, the easier it is to get a to get a clean entry. Less splash. The bigger you are, the more precise and technical you need to be on that entry.
Next up, Team Great Britain, forward 3.5 somersault pike position. And unfortunately, very obvious to not only us, but the judges, that they were very off timing right from the get-go. There's a certain point where you can no longer make changes to try and match your partner.
Yeah, and looking, unfortunately, like Liam got a little distracted as well when his partner just went off the board a little ahead of him. Just over-rotating a little bit on the end. Once you're in the air, you wish there was something you could do to get down faster, but by then it's too late. Just a little off-timed in the takeoff. Only 56.
Still very important to execute it to your best because you're still getting those individual scores.
Inward 2.5 pike from the Korean team. They are right together in all their movements, including just not quite getting a clean enough entry to bring up big scores, not quite locking elbows, being in that perfect line, a little bit under-rotated. Won't get over that 60-point mark on this one. Highs of 7, lows of 6. And to Turkey. Inward 2.5 tuck.
Beautiful.
Excellent dive. They've just been synchronized, going straight in, ripping everything. Want to see maybe a little more form still from them. They have good positions, a little bit loose in the feet. You can see a difference in just how rigid everyone is squeezing their muscles. Some of the top teams, you can just see the desire in the body shape as they're going through the water. And there's just a little bit missing that extra definition in muscle tone as they're hitting the water for that absolute confidence. Now the Swiss did a very nice inward 2.5 tuck. Beautiful positions. Front 3.5 should have a similar look to it. If they can be vertical and synchronized, maybe they can bring up some 8s again.
Wow. So it's crazy because when they're on the board, they're not entirely in sync, pushing off the board and yet entering the water at the same time. Not the most tight entries, but very clean and ripping.
Some smiles there. Fifth bumps with the coaches. I think you see a little bit of mixed emotions there. Satisfied. Wanted a little bit more. 52.92 on that dive. As we get back to Emmett and Noah.
The crowd getting excited.
Back 2.5 pike. 3.0 is the difficulty on this dive.
Canadian coaches watching very intently.
Noah moving the board a little early. Here we go.
Wow.
Solid dive, solid dive.
Solid
Great
dive.
distance. They're together. Maybe not as vertical as they wanted to be, but still managed to get in the water without too much splash.
And something the judges will take into consideration, not only for Canada, but for the other teams, is the consistency.
So a good job for them. This is probably their weaker group, spinning backwards. And then did a good job. 59 points. Slightly lower than you would hope for, but certainly not
On the low end of
Not a
things.
low end. We've seen some dives scoring less than that. They're in good shape. Unfortunately, going into the last dive, they only have a 2.7. They might have great quality, but it'll be hard to make a move up in the standings. Taipei, Lee, and Tu doing one entire rotation less, a back 1.5 somersault pike. This actually takes quite a bit of control. Control on the close board. It looks like that was a new dive on the far board. You can see a little bit of inexperience in this, coming out just way too early, not really knowing where he is in the air, breaking position. Anguish on his coach's face. That's not what he wanted to see.
The
Still
coaches
smiles.
did give a bit of a giggle. It's really helpful to just laugh things off, but I agree. I think it was a new dive.
Yeah, one thing about hitting the water in that position, you get instant feedback that the dive was not good.
Yes. Next up, Croatia, forward 3.5 pike. They've also been extremely consistent. Really looking forward to this. Wow.
Well done. Slightly looking different in that hurdle when one presses the board just a little earlier than the other, but they've obviously worked that out so that when they actually land and take off, they are together. And the judges technically are supposed to only look at the last step as they come into the board. So they may deduct a touch for that still. 7.5, 67 points. That's at the top of the scoring we're seeing on one individual dive, and it brings them currently into the lead. 9 points ahead of Team Germany. With 4 teams to go in this 4th round.
So, Team USA with the reverse 3.5, the highest DD of this event with the DD of 3.5, executing it decently graciously. Such a difficult dive, really in synchro.
Yeah, Max does a great job. Both do a great job. It looked like Nick just in a little bit of hurdle trouble. Barely moved his one arm and still made reverse 3.5.
That is talent.
63 points on a reverse 3.5. They had the potential to go up into the 80s. So they were hoping for a little bit more. That was going to be their make a move up dive. They're going to be a little bit out of striking range for a medal. Colombia trying to make up for their last dive. Oh, Juan is struggling a little bit on that entry. Nice positions, good start. Just over-rotates on the end. Not Colombia's day today in the synchro event. A little bit of frustrations. They have high expectations for themselves.
They are a very strong team.
They've had medals at World Championships in the past. They had a medal in the boys B 1 meter.
And now, Team Italy, the powerhouse of this event, with the forward 2.5 somersault double twist.
Same dive the Brazilians did earlier in this round. And the first miss from the Italians.
Everything was looking really great up until that entry.
Santoro just going for the entry a little too early. Had to allow himself to get the rotation in just a little more. That brings them back to the field a little bit. They drop to second place. 61 points on that dive. Don't look too upset. They're laughing. They think that their last dive, their inward 2.5 pike, is going to move them back up again. As Santoro looks for his third gold medal of these championships. And to Australia, Wilson and Fazzolari. One less twist, forward 2.5 with one twist. 3.0 as opposed to the 3.4. Well, good individual execution. Not quite the synchronization we've seen on some of these teams.
Just a bit of a cut-off takeoff on the far board. Team Australia
Having a little laugh about that.
in 11th going into the 4th round. Coming out of the 4th round, still in 11th. See the rankings here on the screen.
Leaderboard has changed. Croatia taking the lead. 231.99. Just 3 points ahead of Italy at 228.15, who's 6 points ahead of Germany at 222. So as we go into the final round, the final dive, there are a few teams looking for that podium finish. Italy would like to get back on top. They only have a 3.0 left. But they definitely have quality on their side. Croatians and the United States with 3.4 on their final dive. And the Ukraine pair with the double twisting 2.5, 3.4. Big trouble in the hurdle. And what a recovery. In fact, it looked like the worst hurdle did the better 2.5 double twist.
It's funny how that can happen.
Oh, they both had hurdle trouble, it looks like. Even on the far board, you see him waving his arms. Impressive.
Extremely
That is impressive. To be able to do a 2.5 the full twist and make it look like it was still the dive, fairly normal. We'll have a little chuckle. Their last dive wasn't the way they wanted it to go, but that's a good attitude. You can be frustrated, but just laugh it off.
Team Malaysia with their final dive, the forward 3.5 somersault tuck position.
Yeah, these two have been looking really good. Just really great tuck positions, nice precision on the entries, great synchronization.
Wow.
And again, there's a lot to smile about in this performance. This was 5 great dives from their team.
So
Beautiful
really great work.
movements, and they're very young still. They have a lot left to do. Malaysia has some very strong divers. .57 on that. They were pushing 60 points on all their dives and not a 3.0 dive in their optionals.
Very, very consistent. Great diving from Team Malaysia. Team Mexico with their final dive, the forward 2.5 somersault full twist.
Not bad, good synchronization. Not the greatest finish on that far board on the entry. Again, younger divers, not as strong, not as heavy to push the board down. So they're not going as high, don't have enough time after they finish the twist to come out and get that in. And they suffer with 4s on the execution on the far board. 47 points, a little bit lower. Not their best finish. This was an experience gainer for the Mexican team. And here's Japan with a double twisting 2.5, 3.4. 9th coming into this round. Oh, nearly their best dive at the final. Just excellent off the board, really high, fast, easy to get there. And then not the control to stop the rotation at the end. And they roll over, bringing up quite a bit of a splash, unfortunately. Still waves. Happy to be here. Only 56 for them on a dive that they were certainly capable of over 70. Rafael and Rafael, Fogazza and Silva, finishing with an inward 2.5 pike position. They're sitting in 4th place coming into this dive. A great inward 2.5 will put pressure on those top 3 teams, giving them an excellent chance at a medal. It would be the 2nd medal for Silva. Perhaps a bit of a surprise medalist in the A event.
Well, that definitely put them up there.
It'll put them up there. They'll be leading at this point. Just a little over-rotated on the close board. Excellent takeoffs. Beautiful height. Great pikes. Just nice and closed in. Super friendly guys. They say hi, talk to everyone. Love to see that. The divers as well as the coaches. And great performers. There's Gabriel from Brasilia. So Brazil in the lead.
Team Germany, a very, very strong team.
The chant goes up in the crowd. They're supporting their team. Sitting in 3rd. They need a good double twist here to hang on to a medal position. They've got the advantage of difficulty.
Something we saw from our end, because we're actually up higher than the athletes on the 3-meter springboard, they were very, very close to each other in the air and the landing due to a bit of movement on the takeoff.
Yeah, you can see them move slightly towards each other. Sometimes you see that from head on. That's why the boards are spaced a little bit apart so they don't have a collision. Doesn't work. You can't go in the same hole. Smiles from the German team. That was a good job. 64 points. And they move ahead of Brazil, almost guaranteeing a medal. They're currently leading. Still Croatia and Italy to come. And Cuba, 1 less twist on a forward 2.5 with 1 twist.
Oh, dear.
That made me jump in my seat. This is reminiscent of the 2004 Olympics in Athens when the Chinese diver came out at the wrong time of his twist. And unfortunately, that's 0 points. That is unfortunate. It's so, in fact, terrifying when that happens. Just opening just slightly late on his twist, and then unable to know where he is in the air.
It's a very scary feeling.
Yeah. Well, an unfortunate day for that Cuban pair. We've seen them dive better in practice. Consolation. Unfortunate. So now with difficulty, Baker and Thomas looking for one last chance for a medal here. They faltered on their forward 3.5s. But a little more difficulty here, and they might just be able to jump up to that 3rd spot. Well, they're going to push.
Yeah.
That's the best double-double we've seen so far. And not from Tim Hortons, but here, 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists. Very vertical, great entries. There we have our first 73-point dive. And that puts them ahead of the Germans. They have guaranteed themselves a medal. Really only Italy and Croatia to come that can move ahead of them. Big smiles. That was a tremendous last dive. Under pressure, really. They needed that. Another double-double. 2.5, 2 twists. South Korean team, not quite the same precision and elegance in the pike position or the entry. You can see the knees bend a little bit as they aren't quite getting there.
The big dive.
Still 6s on synchronization, 57 points. Maybe not their best performance, but solid nonetheless. They'll finish nearly in the top half of this field.
Team Turkey on their last dive. They back 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist.
So we saw the Malaysian team do this in their compulsory dives. The Turkish team does it in their optional dives. And they've just been steady all day long. 5 dives, straight in,
And
great entries.
Steady is what you want.
Yeah, this bodes well. You can add difficulty. You can add harder dives. You can clean things up. I mean, that's also not easy to do. But with hard work, you can do that. It's harder to show that sort of level-headed calmness that is makes for a great competitor. Bright future for those Turkish boys. Fist bumps and smiles in the end.
Now we will see the Switzerland team do a back 1.5, but with 2.5 twists.
Yeah, nice execution, good dives, a little back from the board. A little bit of over rotation on one of those dives for a little bit of splash. Solid event for Team Switzerland. 57 points. Not quite the same difficulty as some of the other teams, but certainly very good execution. Great positions. I'm impressed with their style and technique. Great to see. In the showers, the Croatians enjoying that hot water. Smiles. And they're waiting their last turn.
Noah and Emmett from Canada with the inward 2.5 somersault in the tuck position. Home crowd.
The flags are out, the signs are up.
I love the signs.
They're ready for one more great dive from the Canadian duo. Emmett on the close board. Noah on the further one. Both from Toronto. Both performing inward 2.5 tuck at 2.7. Beautiful takeoffs. Noah, once again, he drilled it in his A event, did it again. Emmett, beautiful takeoff, just opening a little late and over-rotating.
So strong, both of them. Really, really consistent right up until the end here. Still a great dive, just that over-rotation making the big splash. Hugging it out.
Yeah. Noah saying, I forgive you, Emmett.
I forgive you, this was great experience.
Yes.
We did a great job.
Excellent, they're happy, they're pleased. This was a good event. Great diving. Great synchronization, they look very good together in their first synchro pairing. Taipei, 2.1 degree of difficulty. This is a forward 1.5 with 1 twist. Well, luckily they were both in the air at the same time. One of the synchronized diving rules is that if one diver hits the water before the other one has left the board, it's a failed dive. And you can see on the far board, the one diver just doesn't jump nearly as high. Almost looked like he was hurrying into the water while the other one was still in the air. That will be low synchronization marks. An experience getter for these two divers, seeing what's out there. It's always good to be at these events, see what everyone's doing. Training in this environment can change you as a diver. They have a bit of work to do to come back and perform a lot better at the next one.
Now we have Croatia, who has been leading this final.
Leading the final and finished with the highest difficulty of those in contention.
Well,
Well, it's pretty good.
it is
It's
pretty good.
We saw a 72-point dive a moment ago. That won't be 72. Just a little messy on that entry.
They've got to
They
be
s-
happy with
they
that.
s-
They
they s-
are happy.
They come back ahead. So they know they have a medal. The Italians can dislodge them with a great last dive. But they're happy. Excellent job. And Matei also being just in Group B. So some pretty impressive performances from the younger divers here, diving up against their seniors as the age groups are combined for the synchro event. Same dive from the team from the US. And that's a quality 2.5 with 2 twists. Just easily done, no trouble at any point in this dive. They're out a little too far to get perfect scores, but look at this synchronization. Great, just pike at the beginning. They're essentially doing the same dive at the same time. Might as well have just put a mirror in between them.
That was some of the best synchronization I think we've seen in the last 3 rounds on the big, difficult dives.
Yeah, 73 points, highest point getting dive so far in the event. Puts them in third for now, but we still have Italy to come. Unfortunately, that will knock them down. They're only just 2 points behind Great Britain. Just edged Germany out by 1 point. Great last finish. It just shows you when you do a great last dive how much you can jump up the standings. Well, very nice pike positions. Solid inward 2.5 pike from Team Colombia. Juanes and Tomayo. Good synchro pair. They won't move that high in the standings. 58 points on their last dive. 58-50. Congratulations from their coaches. As they finish their event.
Now is where things get.
So here is where the gold medal is on the line.
Team Italy needing 68.1 points to surpass Team Croatia for that gold medal.
This is doable. 8s on a number 2.5, which they are capable of. And it's
Well,
going to be very close.
this is what we would say is a nail biter, or as Rylan Weens would say, a barn burner.
It has been a barn burner. Excellent pike positions, beautiful dives. 71-10, they take over the lead from Smiles on Italy as they see their point total. Excellent dive. Even with the slight miss earlier, now they see what they've done. They know they can't be caught anymore. Just Australia left to go. They're too far behind to catch up. They've done it. Matteo Santoro, 3 gold medals at these championships. Individual 1 meter, individual 3 meter, and now synchro gold. Let's see how the Australians handle the excitement and at the same time knowing they're not really in contention for that gold medal spot. 89 points they need for third. They're also looking to finish strong.
Back 2.5 somersault pike position.
And their best dive by far of the event. Excellent takeoff, excellent entry. Great to see them finish like that after seeing Italy celebrate their last dive.
Really nice. Way to finish off the event for Team Australia. That was an exciting event to watch. It was a little bit longer than we're used to in a final, but everybody did great work. Everyone was participating in the difficult dives. Team Croatia was extremely, extremely impressive. Italy surpassing them by only that 3-point mark. Extremely strong athletes in this event.
It was a back and forth coming into the last round. Germany was sitting in third place, gets knocked out by the Croatians, and Great Britain with a final push on their double twisting 2.5 really makes the big jump from 5th all the way up. So exciting finish, that last round dive, ever so important. Italy jumps up a spot in the last round as well. Very excited, you can see. A lot of milling about. Excellent day today. Some great performances. When you see great performances, it's such a great way to finish the event and have deserving medalists standing on the podium.
Well, after day 6, we've come to our conclusion of the day. Looking forward to tomorrow. Igor, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Courtney. Always a pleasure to be here.
And we will see everybody tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at your video boards. A great highlight reel from our last event coming at for your pleasure. Coming up very shortly will be the victory ceremony medal presentation for boys B platform, girls B 1 meter, and our boys mixed synchro championship final.
Can't erase, so I'll take blame, but I can't accept that we're estranged without you. Without you, I can't quit now. This can't be right. I can't take one more sleepless night without you. Without you. I won't soar, I won't climb. If you're not here, I'm paralyzed without you. Without you, I can't look. I'm so blind. I lost my heart. I lost my mind without you. I am lost. I am.
In the shade of night, you're moving closer. We're on our way to cross the line. Think you got me right where you want me, but it's all in your mind. I came to party on my own. Don't need nobody in my soul. I get down to the beat, I lose control. Hey, oh, I go so low. Boy, you can cool it down. Not here to fool around. Just wanna dance, 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 dance. I know you want me, but I don't care, baby. Just wanna dance, 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 dance.
We are going to be presenting our medals to our girls B 1 meter, boys B platform, and our 3 meter synchro athletes. We'd ask our athletes to please assemble and make their way to the marshalling area. Once again, medal presentation, girls B 1 meter, boys B platform, and our boys 3 meter synchro finalists. Thank you.
I'm just feeling celebration tonight. Celebrate, don't wait too late. No, we don't stop. You can't stop. We're gonna celebrate.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to get underway with our medal presentations for the girls B1 meter. But first, have a look at the big video screens and see how our podium recipients made their way to the top of the podium. Everyone, please welcome the medalists and presenters for the girls B1 meter championship final.
Veuillez maintenant accueillir les médaillés et les présentateurs pour l'épreuve filles B tremplin 2 mètres.
The medals will be presented by
Les médailles seront présentées par
member of the FINA Diving Technical Committee,
membre du comité technique de plongeon de la FINA,
Matt Lindberg, accompanied by
accompagné par
President of Diving Plongeon Canada,
la présidente de Diving Plongeon Canada,
Bernie Olansky. In third place, winner of the bronze medal, representing Italy,
en troisième place, gagnante de la médaille de bronze représentant l'Italie,
Georgia DeSantis. In second place, and winner of the silver medal, representing United States of America,
en deuxième place, gagnante de la médaille d'argent représentant les États-Unis d'Amérique,
Molly Gray. Winner of the gold medal and your 2022 FINA World Junior Diving Champion, representing Canada,
gagnante de la médaille d'or et votre championne du monde junior de plongeon de la FINA 2022, représentant le Canada,
Alexa Fung. please join us for the national anthem of Canada.
Veuillez maintenant vous joindre à nous pour la présentation de l'hymne national du Canada. Veuillez applaudir nos médaillés des championnats du monde junior de plongeon FINA 2022.
Please show your appreciation for our 2022 FINA World Junior Diving Championship medalists.
All the countless nights, all my prayers they glow like northern lights, and I'll fight for every single one. I'm not gonna beg you for tomorrow. Some are born to lead and never follow. No one can tell me now, this ain't where I belong. I fell 1,000 times and I remember everyone. Dare you to knock me down, I dare you to come for me. I've gone 1,000,000 miles to find a place for me, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Supposed to be.
Coming up momentarily, the victory ceremony for the Boys B platform event. Ladies and gentlemen, just prior to our victory ceremony for the Boys B platform, for your viewing pleasure, a joy to put together a highlight package for you for our Boys B platform winners.
That's right, would it work? Go ask, go serve, tight pants, spin the skirt. We gon' bang it till it hurts. That's right, would it work? Go ask, go serve, tight pants, spin the skirt. We gon' bang it till it hurts. That's right, would it work? Go ask, go serve. That's right, would it work? Spin the skirt. We gon' bang it till it hurts. Shit, here we go again. That's right.
Diving fans, please welcome the medalists and presenters for the Boys B Platform Championship Finals.
Veuillez maintenant accueillir les médaillés et les présentateurs pour l'épreuve Garçon B de la plateforme.
The medals will be presented by
Les médailles seront présentées par
member of the FINA Diving Technical Committee,
membre du comité technique de plongeon de la FINA,
Hannah Novotna, accompanied by
accompagné par
member of the Board of Directors of Diving Plongeon Canada,
membre du conseil d'administration de Diving Plongeon Canada,
Jill Brewer. In third place and winner of the bronze medal, representing United States of America,
en troisième place, gagnant de la médaille de bronze, représentant les États-Unis d'Amérique,
Joshua Hedberg. In second place and winner of the silver medal, representing Great Britain,
en deuxième place, gagnant de la médaille d'argent, représentant la Grande-Bretagne,
Jordan Fisher Ims. Winner of the gold medal and your 2022 FINA World Junior Diving Champion, representing Ukraine,
gagnant de la médaille d'or et votre champion du monde junior de plongeon de la finale 2022, représentant l'Ukraine,
Kirill Bolyuk. Please join us for the national anthem of Ukraine.
Veuillez maintenant vous joindre à nous pour la présentation de l'hymne national de l'Ukraine. Veuillez applaudir nos médaillés des championnats du monde junior de plongeon de la finale 2022.
Please show your appreciation for our 2022 FINA World Junior Diving Championship medalists.
And now I'm looking for a reason why you even set my world into motion. 'Cause if you're not really here, then the stars don't even matter. Now I'm filled to the top with fear that it's all just a bunch of matter. 'Cause if you're not really here, then I don't wanna be either. I wanna be next to you. Black and gold, black and gold, black and gold. I look up into the night sky. I see 1,000 eyes staring back. And all around these golden beacons, I see nothing but black. I feel the weight of something beyond them. I don't see what I can feel. If vision is the only validation, then most of my life isn't real. 'Cause if you're not really here, then the stars don't even matter. Now I'm filled to the top of fear that it's all just a bunch of matter. 'Cause if you're not really here, then I don't wanna be either. I wanna be next to you. Black and gold, black and gold, black and gold. Cause if you're not really here, then the stars don't even matter. I'm filled to the top with fear that it's all just a bunch of matter.
Ladies and gentlemen, athletes, coaches, your attention to the video board and watch the big screen, the highlight package on how our podium recipients achieved that status. Here we go with a highlight just for you. Everyone, Please welcome the medalists and presenters for the Boys B Synchro Championship Finals.
Veuillez maintenant accueillir les médaillés et les présentateurs pour l'épreuve de garçons 3 mètres synchro.
The medals will be presented by
Les médailles seront présentées par
member of the FINA Diving Technical Committee,
membre du comité technique de plongeon de la FINA,
Bartholomew Kornicki. Accompanied by
accompagné par
Commonwealth Games and Pan American Games multi-international medalist and member of the Order of Canada,
multimédaillé des Jeux du Commonwealth et des Jeux panaméricains et membre de l'Ordre du Canada,
Bev Boys. In the third place and winners of the bronze medal representing Great Britain,
en troisième place, gagnant de la médaille de bronze, représentant la Grande-Bretagne,
Leon Baker, Hugo Thomas. In the second place and winners of the silver medal representing Croatia,
en deuxième place, gagnant de la médaille d'argent, représentant la Croatie,
Matej Neveskanen, David Ledinski. Winners of the gold medal and your 2022 FINA World Diving Champions representing Italy,
gagnant de la médaille d'or et vos champions du monde junior de plongeon de la FINA 2022, représentant l'Italie,
Stefano Bellotti, Matteo Santoro. Please join us for the national anthem of Italy.
Veuillez maintenant vous joindre à nous pour la présentation de l'hymne national de l'Italie. Veuillez maintenant applaudir nos médaillés des championnats du monde junior de plongeon de la finale 2022. Please show your appreciation for our 2022 FINA World Junior Diving Championship medalists.
I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And I'm right where I'm supposed to be. When I think of all the countless nights, all my prayers they glow like northern lights.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for attending our events today. Thanks to our volunteers and Plongeon Quebec and Diving Plongeon Canada and all of our major sponsors. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, your attention to the big screen. We have an end-of-day rollout for you put together by our amazing production team. Enjoy, and thank you. Good night.
We are the golden hearts. Could we dance, dance our tears away? We'll make it till the end, till the end. Freeze the time and everything around, like we're always on the run to the better time.